My wife laughed at me in court. Seconds later, everyone discovered who I really was. The sound of her laugh echoed through the courtroom as a slap in my soul. There, in the face of dozens of people, my own wife pointed her finger at me and said the words I never imagined hearing. "Doctor, this man is just a useless that never managed to give me the life I deserve." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt the weight of all looks at me. The judge, the lawyers, the notary staff, the people who were waiting in the gallery. Some laughed softly, others shook their heads with pity. I was there, a 58-year-old black man wearing a cheap social shirt and beaten pants, being humiliated by the woman who swore me to love me until death separated us. "Marina, please." I tried to talk, but she cut me on another cruel laugh. "What do you want me to the judge? Do you want me to pretend you are something in life?" She turned to the magistrate, a 50-year-old white man who looked at me with poorly disguised contempt. "Excellence, I ask divorce because this man was never able to support me worthy. We lived in a 2-room house for 15 years. He's been working as a building caretaker and gets a misery." Each word was a stab. Not for the lie, because part of what she said was true, but for the coldness, for the ease with which she destroyed our story before strangers. I looked at her and did not recognize the woman I met at a bus stop for 16, when she was just a simple girl who worked in a clothing store. "Your Excellency," continued Marina, now with a more elegant stance than I remembered, "this man made me waste the best years of my life. While other women my age prospered, I got stuck to someone who has no ambition. My name is Roberto Silva dos Santos, or at least that's how everyone has known me for 15 years. I am a janitor of the Monte Castello building in the city center. I wake up every day at 5 of the spot to sweep the building, clean the glass, and take care of the concierge. I earn a salary that barely pays the bills. I live in a simple house in the suburb, but drives an old car that makes noise every time I go up a slope. But the truth is that I chose this life. I chose to be anonymous, invisible, just another black man working hard to survive, and neither Marina nor anyone in that court knew why. 15 years ago, when I met Marina, I was running away, not from the police, not in debt, but a past that had cost me everything I loved most. She was beautiful, simple, working. It seemed genuine when I said I didn't mind that I was just a janitor. He seemed sincere when he said he preferred an honest and hard-working man to a rich liar, as I was wrong. "Mr. Roberto," said the judge, interrupting my painful thoughts, "Mrs. Marina claims that the Lord does not have enough assets to bear alimony. Does that proceed?" I looked at Marina once more. She was completely different from the woman who had married me. The hair was well cut and professionally dyed, the nails made, the impeccable makeup. I wore a dress that cost more than I earned in 2 months, brand shoes, and a bag that I was sure I had never seen before. "When had you got money for all this?" "It's true, Excellence," I answered softly. "I don't have much to offer." The truth was more complicated than that, but she didn't need to know. No one needed to know. Marina smiled victoriously and whispered something in her lawyer's ear. He was an elegant, tall, handsome man wearing a suit that cost more than my car. He looked at me like I was garbage that someone had forgotten to collect. I had never seen that man before, and Marina had never commented from where she had gotten money to pay a lawyer from that level. "And since when did you hire this lawyer?" I asked, unable to control myself. "Since I decided to stop living like a beggar," she answered loudly, making several people in the gallery laugh. "Dr. Fernando offered me his services because there is a penalty of women like me, stuck to men who are not good." Dr. Fernando smiled and nodded, like a knight saving a maiden in danger. But there was something in his eyes when I looked at Marina, something that made me feel a tightness in my stomach. It was not professional piety, it was possessiveness. "Your Excellency," said Dr. Fernando, getting up with a theatrical movement, "my client would like to give up any alimony. She just wants to get rid of this relationship that prevents her from thriving in life." The humiliation burned in my chest like hot iron. 15 years of marriage being reduced to a cruel joke. 15 years of Lev glying early, work heavy, share my little with her being thrown in the trash as if they were not worth anything. 15 years hiding who I really was to protect it, so that we could have a simple and safe life. "Roberto," Marina turned to me with cold eyes like ice, "do you understand that from today we will be divorced? That you will have to leave our house and turn alone? Because I already talked to Dr. Fernando, and he said that I have the right to the house since you never contributed significantly to anything." "Contributed?" I raised my voice for the first time. "Marina, I paid every brick of that house, every electricity bill, every supermarket, every medicine when you got sick. With your salary, Micaria?" She laughed loudly. "Roberto, you earn 900 Rs a month. 900! You know how many women my age already have their own home, car of the year, can you travel? And me here wasting my life with you." People in the gallery whispered with each other. Some shook my head with pity on me. Others seemed to agree with Marina. I was just another poor black man being humiliated in public, and for them it had nothing extraordinary. I understand, I muttered, because I didn't know what to say most. Great, she smiled with a coldness that froze my blood. Because I already have other plans for my life, plans that don't include dragging a dead weight like you. Dr. Fernando put his hand on her shoulder in a way that made it clear that he was not just a professional. Marina didn't move away. In fact, she smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen for years. For years. Suddenly it all made sense. Delays at home, new clothes, always tidy hair, growing coldness with me. Marina, he said, feeling a deep pain in his chest. How long has it been going on? What's what? She pretended not to understand. You know very well what. She shrugged. Roberto, I had the right to seek someone who could value me. Someone who was a real man. The silence that followed was so heavy that I could feel his weight on my shoulders. 15 years of marriage, 15 years of absolute fidelity on my part, 15 years protecting her from a world she didn't even imagine existed, and she had betrayed me with the first expensive suit that appeared. The judge started talking about deadlines and documents, but I barely listened. I was thinking about how I had come there, how had this broken man who everyone looked at me with pity or contempt. Marina laughed softly, whispering with Dr. Fernando, probably planning the new life they would have with the money she would no longer have to share with me. It was then that I heard halted steps in the hallway. The door of the room opened hard, and a bailiff entered almost running, holding a large and yellow envelope. "Excuse me, Excellence," said the officer, completely panting, as if he had climbed several stairs throws. "An urgent correspondence from the São Paulo Court of Justice has come. It is about this process specifically." The judge frowned and reached for the envelope. Marina and Dr. Fernando stopped whispering and looked curious. When the magistrate opened the envelope and began reading the content, his expression changed completely. His face was pale, his eyes widened, and he looked at me as if he was seeing a ghost. Marina noticed the change immediately. "What's up, doctor? Any problem with the process?" The judge did not answer. He took the glasses with trembling hands, straightened in the face, read the document again, and then fixed me with a look that I couldn't decipher. It was confusion. It was fear. It was amazement, perhaps even reverence. "Mr. Roberto," he said, and for the first time his voice had a respectful tone. Could you confirm your full name?" I felt a shiver up the spine. After so long, after 15 years building a simple and anonymous life, something from my past was finally coming to light. Marina looked at me without understanding anything. Dr. Fernando looked nervous, and the bailiff held other documents in his hand, waiting for orders. "Roberto Silva dos Santos," I answered, but my voice came out firmer than I expected. The judge swallowed dry. "And before that, Lord, have you ever had, another name? Another professional title?" The silence in the room was total. Marina frowned, trying to understand what was going on. Her heart was probably accelerated, but not for the right reasons. Dr. Fernando had stopped smiling and looked at me with a growing expression of concern. I knew I couldn't escape anymore. 15 years pretending to be just a janitor. 15 hiding who I really was. 15 years protecting Marina from a dangerous world she had never known. But now, at that moment, in the face of my greatest humiliation, the past had come back to pick me up. And who I walked, the truth came out. Her laughter was going to die in her throat. My breath was heavy. The judge's question echoed in my head like a funeral bell. Another name? Another professional title? He knew. Somehow, after 15 years, someone had discovered who I really was before becoming Roberto Silva dos Santos, caretaker of the Monte Castelo building. "I don't understand the question, Excellence," I lied, but my voice betrayed my nervousness. The judge looked at the document again and then to me. There was something different in his eyes now. The contempt had been replaced by a mixture of confusion and respect. "Mr. Roberto," he said, choosing the words carefully, "this document here indicates that there is an investigation on progress on unloaded goods. Goods that may be registered in another name." Marina frowned. "What goods? What are you talking about? Roberto has no goods." Dr. Fernando approached the judge's table. "Excellence, this is some kind of administrative error. My client is a simple janitor who earns 900 rees per month. There are no assets to be investigated." But the bailiff who had brought the envelope shook his head. "No, sir. The investigation came from the IRS. Apparently, there is a significant discrepancy between declared income and some old financial movements." I felt the cold sweat run down my back. 15 years. 15 years pretending to be poor, living as poor, hiding every penny of what I really had. And now everything was coming to light at the worst possible time. "Roberto?" Marina turned to me with wide eyes. "What's this story? What goods? What another name?" I looked at her and saw genuine confusion. It was not pretense. Marina didn't really know. After 15 years of marriage, she had no idea who had married. It reassured me a little, but it also left me with a deep pain in my chest. How could I hide so well? How had she never noticed? Marina said softly, "This is complicated." "Complicated how?" she almost shouted. "Roberto, if you have money hidden and made me live in a pigsty all these years, I will." "What are you going?" Dr. Fernando put his hand on her arm, calming her. "Marina, if we find out that her husband has hidden goods, this completely changes the divorce process." This doctor, Fernando, was getting more interested than he should. Lawyers who worked for free had always had ulterior motives, and now I was starting to understand what his was. It was not charity. It was greed. He thought he could get something out of Marina, and if he found out I had money, he would want a part too. The judge hit the hammer. "Mr. Roberto, I will have to suspend this hearing until this issue is clarified. You are entitled to a lawyer and—" "No need," I interrupted. "I'm going to talk." The room was total silent. Marina looked at me like she'd never seen me before in her life. Dr. Fernando had stopped smiling and now analyzed me as a predator. The judge leaned forward, waiting, but before speaking, my mind flew 15 years backwards. I was in a doctor's office in Sao Paulo, just received the worst news of my life. Dr. Roberto had told the oncologist, his wife Ana has no more than 6 months of life. Cancer spread too much. I was Dr. Roberto Silva Santos at that time, cardiovascular surgeon, one of the best in the country. He earned a month what now earn in 2 years. It had a private clinic, a 500 square meters, 3 imported cars, a 7-digit bank, and none of this mattered when saving Ana. I spent every penny I had in experimental treatments. I took Ana to clinics in the United States, Europe, Japan. I sold the clinic, sold the house, sold everything, and yet she died in my arms in a cold July dawn, after a 2-year battle that left us in financial and emotional ruins. I had lost not only my wife, but also my career. 2 years away from medicine, spending everything I had, left me outdated, indebted, and emotionally destroyed. No hospital wanted a doctor who had abandoned everything to take care of a convicted woman. For them, I was no longer reliable. That's when I decided to disappear. I took the little I was left. I moved to this small town where no one knew me, and became a caretaker. Because after losing Ana, I no longer wanted to be anyone special. I just wanted to exist, work, survive, until I met Marina. "Roberto," her voice brought me back to the present. "Are you going to talk or not?" I looked at her and felt a deep sadness. Marina was beautiful, young, full of life when I met her. I thought I had found a second chance to be happy. I thought I could rip a simple and honest life with her. I never imagined that one day she would humiliate me publicly for being exactly what she said she wanted, a hard-working and honest man. "My full name," said finally, "is Dr. Roberto Silva Santos. I was a cardiovascular surgeon in Sao Paulo." The silence that followed was different from everyone else. It was no longer contempt or pity. It was pure shock. Marina was pale. "You're lying." "I'm not, doctor." Fernando got closer to the table. "If this is true, where are the documents? Where is the money? Why do you live as like a poor?" I completed the sentence. "Because I spent everything trying to save my first wife. She died of cancer and I lost everything." Marina shook her head. "No, it makes no sense. Roberto, if you were a doctor, why do you work as a janitor? Why have you never told me?" "Why? Because—" I took a deep breath. After Ana died, I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. I no longer wanted to be anyone special. I just wanted a simple life and a woman to love for what I was, not for what I had. The words came out loaded with a pain that I kept 15 years ago. Marina looked at me like I was a stranger, and maybe I was really. Maybe Roberto she met had never really existed. "But do you still have money?" Dr. Fernando could not control himself. It was that. That's all that mattered to him. For them, not pain, not the loss, not the sacrifices, just the money. "I have some investments I made before Ana's illness," I admitted. "Applications that have been stopped all these years." Marina got up from her chair as if he had taken a shock. "As? Marina, ass!" she shouted. The judge hit the hammer. "Order in the room." I looked at Marina and saw no love, not understanding, not gratitude for me choosing a simple life with her. I saw only greed, pure greed. "Enough for you to never have to worry about money," said softly. Dr. Fernando and Marina looked at each other. I saw something passing between them, a silent communication that made me feel sick. Suddenly, it all made sense. The new clothes, the straight hair, the lawyer dearly working for free, the sudden decision to divorce. "Marina," he said, feeling a terrible suspicion growing inside me, "when did you decide you wanted the divorce? What difference does it make?" "Answer." She hesitated. "Some 2 months ago." "And when did you meet Dr. Fernando?" "Roberto, this has nothing to do." "When?" The judge hit the hammer again, but I didn't care. I was starting to join the pieces of a puzzle that made me nauseated. 3 months ago. she murmured. Dr. Fernando stirred his chair, uncomfortable. Mr. Roberto, I don't see how relevant this is for— It's relevant, I interrupted, because you two have been together for 3 months, isn't it? And it was after she met you that Marina decided to divorce me. Marina turned red. Roberto, you're being ridiculous. I am? I got up too. Marina, tell me one thing. How did you pay these new clothes? This hair, this makeup, these nails, with the 900 reais I win? She didn't answer. And you, Dr. Fernando, why would a successful lawyer work for free for a woman who can't afford her fees? He was also silent. It was then that everything became clear in my mind. It was not coincidence. It was not charity. It was a plan to get me everything. The bailiff approached the judge and whispered something in his ear. The magistrate waved his head and looked at me. Mr. Roberto, I said, I just informed that the IRS investigation was not started by chance. Someone made an anonymous complaint about possible tax evasion. I felt the world turn around me. A complaint? Yes. Someone who was aware of your real financial situation denounced that you were living with a declared income much lower than your real goods. Marina and Dr. Fernando looked at each other again, and that's when I knew. They knew. Somehow they had discovered my true identity even before this audience. Divorce, public humiliation, had been planned. They wanted to force me to reveal my goods so I could take me everything. Who made the complaint? I asked, although I knew the answer. The judge looked at the document. The complaint is anonymous, but was made by someone with access to privileged information about their personal life. I looked at Marina. She was avoiding my gaze, nervously playing with the bag of her bag. Dr. Fernando had completely lost his gentleman's pose, and now he was looking at me with a calculating coldness. 15 years of marriage, 15 years sharing everything I had, 15 years protecting her, taking care of her, loving her, and she had sold me for money. But they didn't know something. They did not know that behind the humble caretaker stood still a man who had faced the greatest challenges of medicine, a man who had fought against death and sometimes won. And now, they had woken up this man. The rest of the audience passed like a blur. The judge suspended the process until the situation of my assets was clarified, and I felt the eyes of everyone in the room following me as I left the court. Marina and Dr. Fernando whispered intensely near the departure, but when they saw me, they stopped talking and pretended to be natural. Roberto, Marina approached a forced smile. We need to talk. We really need it, I said, watching every movement of it. Dr. Fernando put his hand on Marina's back in a protective way that made me want to vomit. Mr. Roberto, I think we all won if we solve it civilly. Marina doesn't want to complicate her life, just wants what's fair. Fair? I looked into his eyes. And what would be fair, Dr. Fernando? A equitable division of goods considering Marina's 15 years of marriage. I smiled, but it wasn't a cheerful smile. Of course. And you, of course, will guide Marina about what is equitable, isn't it? He didn't like the tone of my question. I'm her lawyer. It's my duty to protect your interests. Just her interests? Marina moved uncomfortable. Roberto, why didn't you tell me you were a doctor? Why did you hide it all these years? It was a fair question, but coming from it, after all that had happened, it sounded false. Because, Marina, I wanted to make sure you loved me for what I was, not for what I had. And did you find out? Dr. Fernando did not resist. I looked at him fixedly. I found out. We left the court in tense silence. Marina went straight to a car I had never seen before, a luxurious black sedan. Dr. Fernando opened the door for her as a perfect gentleman. They were really a couple for months. Roberto, Marina shouted through the window. Let's go home, talk properly about it. Come on, I said, but I was already planning something different. Instead of going home straight home, I stopped in an internet coffee in the city center. There were some things I needed to investigate, and I couldn't do it from home with Marina around. I paid for 2 hours of computer and started researching. First, I searched for information about Dr. Fernando Moreira da Silva. The full name was on the card he had left at the judge's table. What I found left me with my stomach wrapped. Fernando was not just a successful lawyer. He was a specialist in divorce cases involving high heritage. He had an office in Sao Paulo and was known for getting millionaire agreements for his clients. Most importantly, he had a history of relationships with rich customers, 3 ex-women. All had divorced with their help. They had all been half or more of the ex-husband's assets, and they had all married a few months after the divorce. And all, according to the news I found, had lost everything to him in less than 2 years. Fernando Moreira da Silva was a professional predator. I continued researching and discovered something that froze my blood. One of his ex-wife had given an interview to a local newspaper, denouncing his scheme. According to her, Fernando investigated men with hidden assets, seduced the wives, convinced to ask divorce, and then had part of the goods of both the division and the later relationship. The woman had lost everything: the house, the money, even the children that Fernando had managed to convince her was unstable. She was living in a pension when she gave the interview 2 years ago. My hand trembled when I clicked on the next link. It was a photo of Fernando at a social party in Sao Paulo, and beside him, smiling, was Marina. The photo was 4 months ago. I felt the world spin. Marina had been with Fernando for at least 4 months, not 3 as she had admitted, and judging by the way they were embraced in the photo, the relationship was already well advanced. I printed the photo and several pages of the research on Fernando. Then I searched myself to see what they could have discovered. It was not difficult to find. My name was still on the Regional Council of Medicine, even inactive. There were old references to my clinic, photos of newspapers from the time when I was considered one of the best cardiovascular surgeons in the country, and most importantly, there were public records of some of the properties I had sold to pay honest treatment. Someone with access to this information could easily calculate that even after selling everything, I should still have some remaining assets. The financial investments I had done years before Anna's illness were enough to keep me comfortably for the rest of my life, even living as a janitor. But how was Marina discovered? How had she been to Fernando? Response came when I remembered a conversation we had 2 months ago. Marina had commented that a friend of hers worked in a law firm in Sao Paulo and had counted about lawyers who helped women get good divorce agreements. At the time, I thought it was just a woman's talk. Now I realized that Marina was already planning to leave me. I left the internet cafe with the wrapped stomach and a boiling head. 15 years of marriage had been a lie. Marina never loved me. She stayed with me as she thought I was really poor, but the moment she found out I had money, she got a way to get me everything. When I got home, Marina was in the living room but wasn't alone. Dr. Fernando was there too, sitting on my couch as if he owned the house. Roberto, Marina got up nervously. Fernando came to talk to you about the division of goods. At home? I asked, closing the door behind me. Marina thought we better solve this in particular. Fernando smiled, but there was something cold in his eyes. Without all the court exposure, I sat in the armchair in front of them and watched them. Marina avoided my gaze, playing with newly forth-ped nails. Fernando analyzed me as a predator, calculating the best time to attack. So, said, what proposal do you have? Fernando leaned forward. Considering that Marina dedicated 15 years of her life to this marriage, we think it is fair that she is 50% of all her assets. 50%? That's what the law rules, Roberto. Marina finally looked at me. Half of all you have is mine by right. I smiled. Interesting. And you know exactly how much I have? Fernando hesitated for a fraction of a second. Let's find out during the inventory process. Ah, they'll find out. I pulled the leaves I had printed from my pocket. Or do you already know? Marina was pale when she saw the papers in my hand. Fernando tried to maintain the composure, but I realized that he recognized what I was holding. Do you want to know an interesting thing I discovered today? I continued, pretending calmly. Fernando here is a specialist in finding hidden assets of rich husbands. He has done it with at least 3 other women. Roberto, what are you talking about? Marina tried to look confused, but her voice trembled. I'm talking, I showed the printed picture, from you 2 of you at a party in Sao Paulo, 4 months ago. The silence that followed was total. Marina looked at Fernando in panic. He clenched his fists, clearly annoyed to have been discovered. Marina said softly, you cheated on me at least 4 months ago. You discovered who I was, sought out this professional, and planned together to get me everything. Roberto, you're crazy, she tried. Am I crazy? I exploded. Marina, you made the anonymous complaint to the IRS. You forced the situation in court to force me to reveal my assets. Everything was planned. Fernando stood up, threatening. Beware of your accusations, Roberto. You have no proof of anything. I don't have? I showed more papers. I have his history here, Marina. 3 ex-women he convinced to divorce, who married him, and who lost everything in less than 2 years. You'll be 4th. Marina went white as a paper. This is not true. It's true, yes, I shouted. He will use you to take my money, will marry you, and then will throw you in the trash as you did to the others. Fernando took a step toward me. You will stop these slab now, or what? I got up too. Will you threaten me in my own home? Fernando, let's go. Marina got up, terrified. No, he didn't take his eyes out of me. First, Roberto here will understand how things work. There was something dangerous in his voice now. The gentleman's mask had completely fallen. You will sign the paperwork by dividing your assets with Marina, continued, or we will make your life a hell. Let's prove that you have evaded taxes for 15 years. What if I don't agree? Fernando smiled, but it was not a beautiful smile. Roberto, you are a 58-year-old black man who lived 15 as poor as he had millions hidden. What do you think public opinion will think? What do you think judges will think? I felt the blood freeze in the veins. He was right. Regardless of my reasons, regardless of my pain, regardless of my sacrifices, I would look like a rich man who deceived a poor woman for 15 years. Marina, I looked at her one last time. Do you really want to do that? After all we've been together? She hesitated for a moment, and a second fraction I thought there was some remnant of the woman I loved. But then she looked Piara Fernando, and the coldness returned. Roberto, you deceived me for 15 years. It made me live as poor when I had money to give me a good life. Now I want what is mine by right. Very well, he said, feeling something to die inside me. So that's how it will be. Fernando smiled victoriously. I will prepare the papers. You have 3 days to sign, or we start with the criminal proceedings. They left my house as conquerors. Marina didn't even look back. I stayed alone in the living room, holding the printed papers, feeling the weight of 15 years of mistake falling over my shoulders. They had managed to corner me. They had transformed my love into a gun against me. But there was one thing Fernando didn't know. One thing that even Marina imagined. I was not just a rich former doctor. During my years as a surgeon, I had saved very important lives. People who were due to me favors. People who had power and influence. And some of them still remembered Dr. Roberto Silva Santos. I grabbed my old cell phone and showed a number I hadn't used for 15 years ago. After 3 touches, a familiar voice answered. Hello? Dr. Henrique? It's Roberto. Roberto Silva Santos. I need your help. Roberto. My God, after all these years. Dr. Henrique Almeida's voice sounded surprised but affectionate. How are you, my friend? Dr. Henrique had been my best friend at medical school, my godfather with Ana, and then became one of the most respected lawyers in the country, specializing in medical and commercial law. If anyone could help me, it was him. Henrique, I need your help. I'm in a very complicated situation. You can talk. You know you can count on me for anything. I spent the next time telling Henrique everything. Since Ana's death, my decision to disappear, 15 as a janitor, the marriage to Marina, and now the trap she and Fernando had set up to steal me. Roberto, said Henry when I finished, this is extortion. It's blackmail. And if everything you told me about this Fernando is true, it's an organized crime. But they are right about one thing, I said. I didn't really declare my real income all these years. Technically, they can sue me for evasion. It can be, but there is a difference between greed and trauma evasion. You had medical and psychological reasons to have done what you did, and most importantly, you never spent money, never used for personal gains. You just existed. Henry was right. I had never used my hidden wealth for nothing. I kept living as poor because I wanted to live as poor. It was not a crime to be discreet with your goods. Roberto, send me all this information you got up on this Fernando. I will investigate deeper and get ready, because tomorrow I will be there. Enrique, you don't need. Yes, I need. You saved my daughter, Roberto. Remember? When she was born with a heart problem and you operated her for free because I had no money? She's 20 years old now, is in college, healthy and happy. I never forgot. Having turned off the phone gave me a feeling that I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For the first time in years, I was not alone. The next morning, Henry arrived in a black Mercedes wearing a suit that cost more than my 1-year salary. But when he hugged me, he was the same friend as usual. Roberto, you are different, he said, analyzing me. Slim, more tired, but there is something in your eyes, a strength I haven't seen since college. It's because now I have a reason to fight. We spent all day organizing our strategy. Enrique had brought a private investigator, who in a few hours got devastating information about Fernando Moreira da Silva. Roberto, said Henry, showing a folder full of documents, this man is worse than you imagined. He not only seduces married women to steal their husbands, he has documents with falsification of documents, bribes of civil servants, and at least 2 criminal cases filed for lack of evidence. The researcher, a serious man named Carlos, added, and there is more. The anonymous complaint that was made against you at the IRS had his office. We have the test. I felt the blood boil. They really planned everything. Yes, but now we are going to turn the game. Carlos has been able to record a conversation between Fernando and a revenue employee he bribes regularly, and we have evidence that he has falsified documents in at least 3 other cases. Henry smiled in a way that reminded me why he was the best lawyer I knew. Roberto, tomorrow has the continuation hearing of its divorce process, right? Yes, great, because tomorrow, instead of being the defendant, Fernando and Marina will find out what it is to be accused. That night, I was awakening reviewing our plan. It was risky, but it was our only chance to turn the game. Marina came home late, clearly coming from some meeting with Fernando. She barely spoke to me, just commented that she had resolved some details about the division of goods. Roberto, she said without looking into my eyes, Fernando said that if you sign the papers tomorrow without creating problems, he won't carry on criminal proceedings. How generous of his part. It's for your own good. You don't want to get stuck, want to? I looked at her and felt sorry. Marina had no idea what was coming. She thought she had gotten a perfect partner, but in fact she had been involved with a professional criminal. Marina said, "Are you sure you know Fernando? Are you sure he says he is?" She laughed. "Roberto, I know you are jealous, but Fernando is a successful man. He will give me the life you can never give. If you say." The next day we arrived at court early. Marina came with Fernando, both confident and smiling. Henry was with me, impeccably dressed and carrying a folder that seemed to contain all the justice in the world. "Roberto," Fernando approached, his fake smile. "I hope you reflected on our conversation yesterday." "I reflected a lot." "Great, so we can solve this quickly." That's when Henry introduced himself. "Good morning. I'm Dr. Enrique Almeida, Mr. Roberto's lawyer." Fernando's smile was hesitated when he heard the name. Henry was famous in the legal environment. "Dr. Enrique," Fernando tried to keep the composure. "What a pleasure to meet him. I didn't know that Roberto had hired a representation." "It didn't hired. I'm his personal friend for over 20 years. Marina frowned. "Roberto, who is this man?" "Marina," Henry answered for me. "I'm Dr. Enrique Almeida. Roberto operated my daughter and saved her life when she was a baby. I'm a lawyer, and I'm here to make sure my friend is treated with justice." The audience began with the same judge the time before, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. Enrique had asked a public prosecutor to be present, due to the complexity of the case. "Your Excellency," Henry got up. "Before we discuss the division of goods, I would like to present some relevant information about this process." Fernando moved in the chair, clearly uncomfortable. "Excellence, I see no need to complicate a simple divorce process." "Oh, but I see," Henry smiled. "Mainly because we find that this is not a simple divorce process. It's a criminal operation." The silence in the room was total. Marina looked at Fernando in panic. The prosecutor leaned forward, interested. "Dr. Enrique," said the judge. "Explain." "With pleasure, Excellence." Henry opened his folder. "Fernando Moreira da Silva is not just Mrs. Marina's lawyer. He is his lover for at least 4 months, and together they planned an extortion against my client." "This is a lie." Fernando got up. "And even?" Henry showed the photo I had found. "This photo was taken 4 months ago at a party in Sao Paulo, and we have here documents proving that the anonymous complaint against Roberto and the IRS was made from Mr. Fernando's office." Marina went white as a paper. Fernando was clearly nervous, but tried to keep the pose. "More importantly," continued Henry, "we have evidence that Fernando Moreira da Silva used the same scheme with at least 3 other women. He seduced wives of rich men, convinced them to ask for divorce, got part of the goods, and then abandoned them when the money was over." The prosecutor got up. "Dr. Enrique, do you have this evidence?" "Yes, I have." Henry handed a folder to the prosecutor. "Here we have testimonials from 2 former wanders of Mr. Fernando, documents falsified by him, and recordings of conversations where he bribes civil servants to get privileged information about heritage." Fernando was reading. This is inadmissible. You can't." "Yes, we can," the prosecutor interrupted. "And go. Mr. Fernando Moreira da Silva, you are being charged with gang formation, extortion, document forgery, and active corruption." Marina stared at a panic. "No, this can't be happening. Fernando, do something." Fernando looked at her with contempt. "Marina, you are just a useful idiot. Did you think I was going to marry you for love?" The slap she put into him echoed through the whole room. "You're a bastard, you used me." "Of course I used it. You're an ambitious and dumb woman, perfect for my schemes." Marina turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Roberto, I didn't know. He told me he loved you, that I wanted to build a life with me. I felt sorry for her, but I couldn't forget how she publicly humiliate me, how me. How did you betray me? Marina, you knew exactly what you were doing when you cheated on me. The only thing you didn't know is that Fernando was going to use you too." The prosecutor approached Fernando. "Mr. Fernando, you have the right to remain silent." "Wait," Fernando shouted. "I have important information. I can make a deal." "What kind of information?" asked the prosecutor. Fernando looked desperate around the room. "Roberto, Dr. Roberto, he has millions hidden for 15 years. He evaded taxes for a decade and a half." Henry smiled. "Excellence, my client is prepared to regularize their fiscal situation. In fact, we have already started the process. Roberto wants to pay all taxes due, with interest and fines." The judge frowned. "Dr. Roberto, is that true?" I got up, and for the first time in 15 years I spoke to the authority I once had as a doctor. "Yes, Excellence. I have a heritage that I haven't declared for the last 15 years, but I have my reasons." "What reasons?" "When my first wife died of cancer, I lost not only her but also my career and my sanity. I came to this city to hide from the world, to live a simple life. The money I have been standing for 15 years ago, I never used a penny of it. I lived as poor because I wanted to live as poor." The silence in the room was respectful now. Even Marina had stopped crying and looked at me with something that seemed understanding. "Excellence," Henry continued. "My client is not an evader for greed. He is a man who suffered a deep trauma and chose to live simply. We are ready to regularize everything, pay all taxes due, and donate a significant part to charities." The prosecutor waved his head. "Dr. Roberto's situation can be administratively resolved, but Mr. Fernando has committed serious crimes." Fernando tried one last card. "Marina, tell them how Roberto mistreated you, how he forced you to live in poverty." Marina looked at me, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had loved. "No," said softly. "Roberto never mistreated me. He was always good with me. I was greedy." Fernando looked at her with hatred. "You're idiot. You're throwing away our chance." "Our chance?" Marina laughed bitterly. "Fernando, you just said in front of everyone who used me that I am not useful idiot. Why would I defend you?" Two police officers entered the room to arrest Fernando. As they put the handcuffs on him, he looked at me with pure hatred. "Roberto," shouted while being taken, "you may have won today, but it's not over. I have contacts, I have friends, you'll pay for it." The threat froze my blood. Even arrested, Fernando was still danger. 3 weeks passed since Fernando's arrest and life had changed completely. Not just for me, but for all the people who had been affected by his criminal scheme. Police investigation revealed that Fernando had a true empire built on pain and greed. In addition to the 3 former Wanders we already knew, they found 4 more victims around the country. They had all been seduced, manipulated, and stolen by the same method. He investigated men with hidden heritage, seduced his wives, forced millionaire divorces, and then abandoned women when he got what he wanted. "Roberto," said Enrique, sitting in my room with a document-filled folder, "the IRS has accepted your proposal. You will pay the taxes late with interest and fine, but there will be no criminal proceedings. And Fernando, well, he will be stuck for a long time." "How long?" "Between 12 and 15 years if all crimes add. Gang formation, extortion, document falsification, active corruption, espionage, the list is long." I felt a deep relief. Fernando could no longer hurt anyone. His threats of revenge had proved empty. From jail, he could not touch anyone. "And the other victims?" I asked. "They are being compensated with the goods we have been able to recover from Fernando. It is not everything they have lost, but it is a beginning to rebuild their lives." Marina was sitting in the chant armchair, listening to everything in silence. In the last 3 weeks, she had changed completely. The expensive clothes had given way to simple clothing. The hair was more natural without so much product, and there was something in her eyes that I hadn't seen for months. Humility. "Roberto," she said softly, "can I talk to you, alone?" Henry took his documents. I really went. "Roberto, anything you call me, okay?" After Enrique left, Marina and I was alone for the first time since the court. The silence was heavy, full of 15 years of history and 3 weeks of painful revelations. "Roberto," she started with a trembling voice, "I know I have no right to ask forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I need you to know that I regret it. In truth." I looked at her and saw genuine tears in her eyes. "Marina, why did you do that? Why didn't you talk to me if you were unhappy? Why didn't you give me a chance to explain who I really was?" She shook her head, embarrassed. "Because I was greedy, Roberto. Because I was weak and envious. I saw my friends with new cars, big houses, trips abroad, and I wanted it all too. When Fernando appeared in my life, promising everything I thought deserved, I lost my head. You betrayed me, Marina, humiliated me publicly. He laughed at me in court." I know. The tears were down her face. "Roberto, when Fernando told me that you were a doctor, that I had hidden money, I was furious. I thought you had deceived me all these years. I thought you didn't trust me, but now I understand why you did it." He understands? "Fernando told me about your first wife, about how you lost everything trying to save her, and I realized that you chose to live as poor, because I wanted to make sure I loved you for who you were, not for what you had." She got up and came to where I was, kneeling in front of me. "Roberto, you really loved me for 15 years. It gave me everything I could give, and I returned with betrayal and greed. I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I finally understood what I lost." I looked at Marina kneel in front of me and felt a mixture of pain and pity. She was genuinely sorry, I could see, but the damage was already done. Confidence had been broken in a way that might never be repaired. "Marina," said softly, "do you remember what I said to me in court? What was a failure? A useless, a dead weight?" She lowered her head, embarrassed. "I remember. And you remember having said you already had other plans for your life? Plans that didn't include me?" "I remember. So you understand it's not just about money, isn't it? It's about respect, about love, about partnership, and especially, it's about honesty." Marina nodded, crying. "I understand, and I know it's too late. "It's not too late for you to start over," he said, and I saw surprise in her eyes. "Marina, you're still young. You can still build a good, honest life with someone who really loves you. But with me, I can't anymore." "I know," she whispered. "Roberto, can you forgive me? Not to get together again, but so that I can live in peace with myself." I looked at her for a long moment. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of good and bad times. 15 years sharing life with someone I thought I knew. "Marina," I finally said, "I forgive you, because keeping anger and resentment would only hurt me. But forgiving does not mean forgetting, and does not mean that we can go back to what we were." She nodded, still crying. "Thank you. That means a lot to me. And Marina, when you find someone new, be honest from the beginning. Don't repeat the same mistakes." In the following days, Marina arranged her things and left home. It was not a dramatic or angry moment. It was sad but necessary. She was returning to her mother's house, planning to start over from scratch. I stayed alone in the house that had been ours for 15 years. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. A week later, Henry came to visit me again, this time bringing a proposal that would change my life once again. "Roberto," he said, sitting on my kitchen table, "do I need to ask you a question? Have you ever thought about getting medicine again?" The question took me by surprise. "Enrique, 15 years ago I haven't been drinking. The world of medicine has changed completely. I would not be qualified." "You would be," he interrupted me. "I made some consultations. With your experience and previous reputation, it would just be a matter of taking some update courses. And Roberto, the country needs doctors like you." "Like this," Henry smiled. "There is a government project to bring specialized medical care to needy communities. Cardiovascular surgery in places where people die because they don't have access to a competent doctor. It's exactly the kind of work you have always loved to do." I felt something moving inside my chest. A spark I hadn't felt for 15 years. "And there is more," continued Henry. "The salary is good, but personal satisfaction would be even greater. You would be saving lives from people who really need, people who can't afford expensive agreements or private clinics." I don't know, Henry. It's been so long. Roberto, you are 58 years old. It's still at least 10 or 15 years of career ahead. You want to spend this time cleaning buildings? Or want to baking saving lives?" That night I was awakened thinking about Henry's proposal. Was it possible to start over? Did I still have something to offer to the world? I got up and went to the closet where I had a box that had not opened 15 years ago. Inside were my diplomas, certificates, photos from the time when I was Dr. Roberto Silva Santos. There was a specific photo that always thrilled me. My team after particularly difficult surgery, saving the lives of a 3-year-old who no one thought was going to survive. The child had no agreement. The parents were poor, and I operated for free because that is what doctors did. They saved lives. It was then that I knew what my answer would be. 2 months later, I was in a surgery room in a small town in the countryside, operating the heart of a 45-year-old man who had suffered a heart attack. He was a rural worker, father of 4 children, who would never be able to pay for private surgery. When I took off my gloves after the successful operation and saw his family crying with joy in the waiting room, I felt something I hadn't felt for a long time. Purpose. "Dr. Roberto," said the patient's wife, a simple woman who reminded me of my mother. "Thank you. You saved my family." "It was nothing," I said, but I knew it wasn't true. It was everything. That's what I was born for. Today, 6 months after court, my life is completely different. I work 3 days a week in surgeries around the state and 2 days doing free consultations at a community clinic in the city. Gainweb less than he earned as a private surgeon, but infinitely more than he won as a janitor. And especially, I sleep in peace every night. Marina called last week. He said he got a job at a clothing store, the same kind of work she did when we met. He said she is dating a hard, working boy, and this time she wants to build something real, based on love rather than ambition. I was happy for her. Forgiving real means wanting the person to be happy, even if not by your side. Fernando remains imprisoned. I heard from Henry that he tried to make agreements with the prosecution, offering information about other criminals in exchange for reduction of the penalty, but his crimes were too serious. Will serve the full penalty. The other women he deceived are rebuilding their lives. One of them even became an activist and created an organization to help other victims of sentimental scammers. She said she wanted to turn her pain into protection to others. Sometimes I keep thinking about what would have happened if I had never lost Anna, if she had not been sick, if I had not spent everything, if I had not become caretaker. Would I have become a better or worse person? The truth is that pain teaches us things that happiness never teaches. Poverty taught me humility. The betrayal taught me how to value honesty. Solitude taught me how to appreciate the true connections. Today I know that money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy character. cannot buy integrity. You can't buy true love. Marina loved me as she thought I was poor and hard-working, but when she found out I had money, it changed everything to her. The problem was not me to have hidden my wealth. The problem was that she changed when she found out. True love does not change with circumstances. True love loves the person, not the situation of the person. Anna loved me when I was a successful doctor and kept loving me when I lost everything trying to save her. This was true love. Marina loved me when she thought I was just a janitor, but cheated on me when she found out I had money. This was conditional love. Now at 58, I understand the difference. I don't know if I'm getting married again, maybe yes, maybe not. But if it happens, it will be with someone who loves me for what I am, not for what I have. Someone who would be by my side if I was rich or poor, doctor or caretaker, healthy or sick. Because that's what love does. It is, no matter the circumstances. Today, when I finish successful surgery and see the patient's family smiling, I remember why I chose medicine so many years ago. It was not for the money, it was not for the prestige. It was for the chance to make a difference in people's lives. And when I come home alone, to a simple but comfortable house, I don't feel loneliness. I feel peace, because I finally found my place in the world again. Life has taught me that no matter how many times you fall, what matters is how many times you get up. That no matter how much you lose, there is always a chance to start over. That betrayal hurts, but it is not the end of the story. And especially life has taught me that our true wealth is not in the bank, it is in our character. Our true forrosa is not what we have, it is in who we are. My wife laughed at me in court, but seconds later, everyone discovered who I really was. And who I really was not defined by my money, but for my ability to forgive, to start over, and to keep saving lives even after I have lost everything. This is my story, and if you fit something to those who are listening, know that no matter what you are going through now, there is always hope of a fresh start. There is always a chance to find peace. Just have the courage to forgive, to leave the past behind, and to find out who you really are under everything that happened to you. The rest is just the beginning of a new story.